and it's a painful reality. And it disturbs me when we are in a situation where we can't acknowledge the depth of that pain without having to defend our people first. That feels
particularly
like a
where we have we have a black
that's
family
right.
sitting in
That's
the
right.
White House at
That's
the
right.
peak of power and worldwide exposure.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you would think that there
And
would
so-
now
yeah.
be
But
even
it
more
also
of a
it
space.
exists in all families. Do you know what I mean?
yes,
It exists in all families,
absolutely.
and because it came out, it was a story that came out about a black family. We can't deny the fact that, and I think that this is not being publicized, is that this is something that exists in all families,
Yes.
and it's something that has to stop. I think the character was able to negotiate so much given her circumstances. And I think ultimately Precious had a voice. And
yes.
that doesn't happen that often. For me, when I look for something in that story, you know, how do you rejoice at the end of all of this? Because we went and there were 4 of us together and we sat in the theater probably for about 20 minutes after the show because we were trying to be between crying and then feeling some sense of completeness in the story that Precious was able to negotiate her life, and she had a voice. And for so many people, as a community of people, regardless of what the circumstances are, so many black people don't have a voice.
Yeah, for me, it was her resilience. I had some hope at the end of the film, but for me, the message was there is resilience there. She is empowered. She is still going to have a very tough journey with these 2 children and being HIV positive and carrying all that emotional baggage, but there is resilience. And I think that's what we often forget. And, you know, what I always flip the script when I think about our history as black women in particular and our history as a people in general, it's a source of strength. We have overcome so much. So
We survived.
Part of the denial is that you are missing out in tapping into the strength, the fact that we did overcome, that we are here, you know, which is what Precious says in the film, I'm here, that if you do, you know, tap into the pain, that on the other side of that, hopefully you will find some resilience and strength. And that's what our history has to teach us.
Okay.
And we forget about that when
Yeah.
we deny it.
In my household growing up, and I think for a lot of us, you know, we were taught, keep a stiff upper lip, don't worry about it, it's going to be okay, stop crying, especially the woman children.
Absolutely.
You
Keep
know?
going.
Keep it
going.
moving.
Yeah.
Keep it moving.
You can
And that's
cope.
what we were taught.
Yes.
That's how our belief systems were formed. And it's not a conscious thought. It's just what we do. And so we have to consciously now shift that way of thinking and to say it's okay to feel what you feel because it becomes it's so intergenerational because it's transmitted. Information is transmitted through in utero. And so the female children that are born feeling like they're less than, feeling like they can only achieve certain things and understanding that they have a place where they're supposed to be. And the black church supports that. Black church is getting better about that, but for a long time, even when we look at the issues around HIV and
Definitely,
AIDS and
yeah.
domestic violence in the home and all of those things, those were things that were not talked about. And there were quotes that were pulled out of the Bible, I think up until probably about not even 10 years ago. That we're just beginning to see this shift of people being able to talk about what's really going on.
Well, the additionally interesting thing to me about the movie was that in so many subtle ways, it was very instructive about black culture. And one of the things, you know, I noticed and was talking about with some friends is that no matter how horrific her mother was, and she was pretty bad, Precious never really said anything out loud against her. Do you remember this? I mean, she may have.
Well, when she did, she got a TV thrown at her.
Exactly. Okay, but for the most part,
Self-preservation.
Yeah.
you know, there were the looks, but she never really took her on. And one of the conversations that I was part of is about that reverence that we have for mother in the black community. You never speak against your mother. Never, ever, ever, no matter what she does. I mean, she could set your toes on fire and you don't say anything about it. Is that always a good thing?
Well, we know it's not.
Yeah,
we know it's
exactly.
not, but to your point,
Yeah.
that's part of the culture.
Exactly.
Precious! You gonna stand up there and look down at me like you're a woman? You don't know what real women do. Real women sacrifice. Now smile about that, you fat bitch. Get down here!
If you're just joining us, we're talking with Leah Randolph, a community activist who focuses on women's issues and domestic violence, and Kelley Chunn, principal of Kelley, Chun and Associates, about the far-reaching and deep impact of the movie Precious.
You're a dummy. Don't nobody want you. Don't nobody need you. School ain't gonna help nothing.
So what do we learn from Precious? When you walked out of the movie, and I understand you sat there for 20 minutes, and I've been telling people who haven't seen the movie, don't plan on going anywhere right after.
Well, I went for drinks.
You're going to have to sit somewhere, okay? You're going to have to sit somewhere and, deal with this for a minute before you can move on. You understand my point? Yeah. But what did we learn from Precious? The movie has stayed with me all these weeks. I still have images in my head from the movie. Cinematography I thought was extraordinary. I thought it was an extraordinary piece of filmmaking. The emotional impact of it has stayed with me. What did we learn? Why do we want people to go see it? I keep running around saying, you need to see Precious, and every now and then I think, what am I telling them to see Precious for? What do I want them to walk away with?
For me, I processed it afterwards with the two friends that I went to see it with. We sat there and cried during the movie, and then afterwards it was like, we got to have a martini. So you do need to process it. You do need to. Okay. And I think an answer to your question is because we need to talk about it. What Leah was saying about being in denial, about having that curtain over this slice of life, more than a slice of life. A lot of people are having to endure this kind of a family situation or this kind of
Kelley,
abuse. So we need to see it because we need to acknowledge it. We need to see Precious. We need to claim her as one of our own. We need to recognize the outsider. And as a people, we have been outsiders. We have been marginalized. So in that sense, no matter where you are on the food chain, there are elements of Precious, in your own story. And as a communicator, as someone who communicates for a living, one of the messages is support African American film. Support a black filmmaker. Support having our stories told.